nice and straight. It prevents putting loads on the sidewalls of your nose tower when you do the run-up. All right, Anthony, do me a favor. Check your door. Make sure she's good and locked. All right. Center panel switches. Big thing is have the switches set the way you want them for takeoff. AC, obviously, we're going to disable recirc. We make sure we have plenty of fuel on board the airplane, and then at this point, we're going to look up and we're going to go, hey, how much fuel do we have on board? My left tank is the fullest. I'm going to close my door and put my fuel selector back into the auto mode. All right, boost pump is on. Mixture is coming rich. Flaps to 50%. And we're going to make sure that those flaps are in the proper configuration and they are set properly. Now, when I get to the run-up part of the checklist, because I'm trying to minimize the amount of time that my prop is at 1,700 RPM, I personally review all the steps. You know, big picture, we're going to get the prop to 1,700. We're going to check our electrics, check our mags, and then we're going to check the no kidding flight idle to make sure that the engine still runs. So loading up the airplane, all right. Advancing my airplane to 1,700. Remember, all of my critical engine instruments are always available to me on the MFD. So looking at the bar graph on the right for 1,700 RPM. And then I'm going to come over and I'm going to check my electrical system. Green, 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 green. And then I'm going to do a conventional mag drop. 2 clicks to the left, measuring the drop. Back to both, clear those plugs. 1 click to the left. Measure the drop, measure the difference, or within limitations. Back to both, and now I'm going to smoothly bring the power lever back to idle. The engine still runs at no kidding idle, then back to 1,000 RPM. All right, for engine cooling, going to reset the switches, and we're going to finish up the before takeoff checklist. Trims are set. All right, that little oil pressure message caution is normal because this is the 3rd flight of the airplane today, so the engine oil is hot. I'm going to review my takeoff procedure. Set my checklist up for the climb checklist. Today we're going to do a cruise climb. And today is going to be a normal takeoff of runway 36. It's going to be a 1,200-foot takeoff roll on an 8,000-foot runway. If we lose an engine below 700 feet MSL, we're going to be landing or stopping straight ahead. Above 700 feet, we're going to immediately transition to caps. If I want to glide back to the airport, all right, I need to be above 2,100 feet MSL. Now, before I take off, I'm going to come to my full screen on my PFD, all right, selecting the soft key that says PFD settings. I'm going to push it twice, 1, 2, and then on GTC number 1, make sure my pane control is on my MWD1, and I'm going to unsplit it. I'm going to go to the full screen and set my MFD to the appropriate range for my departure. Jumbolair traffic, Cirrus 9284 Charlie, back taxiing runway 36, Jumbolair. All right, I see runway 36. Approach path is clear both directions. My technique whenever I'm taxiing at a non-towered airport, if I have to back taxi, I favor one side of the runway just in case someone is landing that I don't see, so they have the other side of the runway available to them. Today we would have loved to have demoed the taxi feature. God bless you, Jason. Unfortunately, Jumbolair doesn't have Safe Taxi available to it, to where we could have punched in our taxi instructions to show one of the neat, unique features of the Gen 7 aircraft. All right, gentlemen, everyone ready to go and sitting in the back? Excellent. Caps, maps, flaps. Jumbolair traffic, Cirrus 9284 Charlie, departing runway 36 VFR to the southwest, Jumbolair. All right, full power in 3 to 4 seconds. Power looks good, all engine instruments and the green, no CAS messages. flight characteristics of the G7, other than a little bit better view out the front, pretty identical to the Gen 6. So flaps up at 90, climbing out at 120 to 130 with the magnificent turbo. Now really quick as I'm climbing out, I don't like the range of my inset. The way I like to change the range of my inset, I don't like reaching up and using the soft keys. I'll just momentarily change GTC1 and I'll select PFW. I'll use the range knob to set the appropriate range on my inset. And then just like going to home, I reselect MFW. All right, CAPS is available. All right, as we're getting airborne, left-hand turnout with our massive 7-mile flight from Jumbolair to Ocala. Love this feature right here. The D key is very accessible. Direct, activate, nav. Ocala Tower, Cirrus 9284 Charlie, 7 miles to the northeast, full stop with hotel. From the northeast, Cirrus 9284 Charlie. 84 Charlie Wilco. All right. Getting airborne, to get to my checklists, I'm just going to use the soft key that says PFD settings. I'm going to select it twice. All right, my PFD now splits, and I've got my climb checklist available to me. And this cruise happened really fast. Today in Florida, we might be flying in pre-hurricane conditions, but we're not flying in icing. Landing procedures in the G7 versus the SR or the G6 and earlier are identical. I like getting everything set up before I get into the pattern in the terminal area. Today we had a whopping 7-minute flight, so it happened a little bit quickly. Wow, look at that traffic jam leaving Florida. Holy cow. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Hurricane Milton is bearing down upon us. This is Monday. It's going to be here in about 36 hours. Ocala Tower, Cirrus 9284 Charlie 3 Northeast. '84 Charlie, clear to land, runway 36. So in the turbo, nice power setting for downwind. About 40 to 45% power is going to give you an airspeed a little bit over 100 knots. Remember, downwind we want to be at or above 100 knots. We're going to gracefully decelerate as we're entering the right downwind here at Ocala, Florida. Beam the departure end. All right, airspeeds check. Here comes flaps 50. Remember, the nice feature of the Gen 7 is if you throw that switch down at a speed either too fast or too slow, it's either not going to extend them or it's going to not retract them as a safety feature. Cirrus 84 Charlie, midfield downwind. 8 for Charlie, clear to land. Some old habits die hard. You guys have got us trained well. Well, y'all are doing a great job helping us learn proper brevity comments. It's great. All right, airspeed's checked, making our turn to base. So today I'm going to be VREF until about, VREF plus 10 until about a half mile. Then I'm going to be setting VREF before I cross over the threshold. Actually, sooner the better, because I can get the airplane nice and trimmed. All right, today I'm going to be aiming 500 feet down the runway with the intention of my wheels touching at the 1,000 foot mark. All right, pump, mixture, flaps clear to land, landing checklist is complete. Just a little bit high, a little bit fast, taking a tiny bit of power out. There's the correction, bringing the power back in for a second. This is a 4-blade turbo, so I'm going to keep the power in a little bit longer than a 3-blade aluminum. Coming to idle. And then I'm not going to let her land, not going to let her land. And then flying my nose down. And then once the nose is down, we're going to keep the side stick coming. Yes, sir, we are. Alpha 6, PRP with you. 8-4 Charlie. And then as I'm taxiing down the runway, full elevator, using the elevator as a little bit of a speed brake to help a little bit of deceleration to save our brakes. And folks getting off runways, recommend don't turn off the runway at more than 10 knots of ground speed. It's a lot of side load on your tires. All right, as for clearing the runway, prepping for check rides, remember don't do your after landing flows until you're clear of the runway. So the after landing flow, all right, boost pump coming off, flaps coming up. I give the mixture just a couple seconds before I start leaning on a hot engine. And then last but not least, coming up, making sure that my transponder is reset to VFR. And in preparation for my next flight, I'm going to split my PFD. Right? Have access to my checklist for the after landing flow. I will also split my MFD. Allowing the auto fuel selector to do its magic just before I shut the airplane down. Part of my shutdown flow will be raising up the lever to make sure that the auto swapping fuel pump or auto swapping fuel selector feature is in the manual mode for the next start. Folks, remember when you want to slow a Cirrus down on the ground, we don't start with brakes, we start with throttle. Throttle, no kidding idle, coast, and then start smoothly applying a little bit of brakes to bring your speed down to the ground speed that you like. We see a lot of people keeping their RPMs up at a taxi RPM and using brakes to control their ground speed, and that just heats your brakes up and it wears them out. Not very much flying today here in Florida. We're actually in the prep mode for Hurricane Milton. Well, what we've got is we dispersed some of our aircraft. So half of our fleet is in one hardened hangar. The other half of our fleet is here at our home. So getting ready to shut the Gen 7 down. It's very much like the Gen 6. Me personally, my first step is always to safe caps. I actually had a passenger one time when they were getting out of the airplane almost grabbed the caps handle. I figured that might ruin a lot of fun. From here, we're going to make sure that the AC is turned to OFF. It's one of the highest maintenance failure items we see here at PRP Aviation. So AC coming off. Going to do a hot mag check. Make sure my switches are set appropriately. And then we're going to go to idle cutoff, looking for a tiny rise in RPM during the shutdown process. And there it went up 10. My hand stays on the magneto, coming to off. And then my switches are going to come off.